feel like thinking about quitting is something that all streamers go through. I know I've thought about quitting after a bad stream or a series of bad streams. Hi guys, I'm Solsey and I help new streamers level up their content. Today I want to talk about 5 reasons why so many small streamers do quit streaming and how you can overcome these. Reason number 1, your expectations are just too high. Everyone's expectations are completely different. You probably have a viewership number in your head that you want to achieve. Maybe you're also expecting a certain amount of income from Twitch, or maybe you expected to blow up in 1 week and become partner. Now, it's great to have goals, but there's a process that we all need to go through in order to achieve our goals. And the speed at which you achieve your goals is entirely personal to you, your circumstances, and your content. Some people, they might blow up in a week, but this is like super rare in 2020 or 2021, whenever you're watching this video. For most people, it's going to take years to get to the level that they want to be at. Now, having really high expectations actually stems from, trigger warning, self-entitlement. I was horribly self-entitled when I moved to Twitch. I expected my mix of followers back. I expected my mix of viewership back. And I felt like a complete failure when this did not happen. Entitlement is where we mistakenly perceive a need or desire as our right. We all desire to be a big streamer, right? Probably if you're watching this channel, we want to be successful on Twitch. But if you think about it, Twitch doesn't actually owe you success just because you start up a stream, or even if you've been streaming on Twitch for several years, or if you had a big following on a different platform. Now, the problem with feeling entitled to something is you stop seeing that thing as a gift, which instantly makes your Twitch growth a massive uphill struggle. And it's honestly, guys, a massive deterrent for your viewers, who again don't owe you anything and are choosing to spend their free time and sometimes money with you. Self-entitlement can also actually stall personal growth, because if you feel entitled to something already, it can actually prevent you from doing the work that is required to achieve that thing. It can prevent learning and adaptation and ultimately lead to you repeating the same mistakes. The most common reason why streamers feel entitled to viewership is because we've basically been told our whole lives that hard work equals success. In streaming, that is totally untrue. This isn't a traditional job. You don't work hard for a day and then come home with a fat paycheck and a pat on the back from your boss. Viewership is lower than expectation is the most common issue that I see in small streamers. And the way that I suggest you tackle this is by reducing the value that viewership has to you, as well as being grateful for the successes that you do have. The first and most practical solution, and I feel like I've said this a lot, turn off your viewer count when you are live. Everyone who I speak to about this has different opinions. Some people are able to emotionally disconnect from that viewer number, but if your viewership is lower than you want it to be, then every single time that you look at it live, chat can see it in your face, and it is ruining your streams for the people who are there watching. And if you do have 0 viewers, then this is equally important, because for one, 0 doesn't always mean 0. The Twitch refresh rate is really far behind, and people are constantly dropping in and out of streams, but also people may very well still be watching your VODs. I watch a ton of VODs, and there's nothing worse than watching a VOD where a streamer is painfully aware of their lack of viewership. Turn that viewer count off, like really off. Don't periodically check it. I see you. And imagine you're streaming to 1 person, 10 people, 100 people, whatever number makes you feel comfortable in your head. A really useful side effect of imagining that people are there in your chat is that you will naturally develop a really important skill, which is holding a conversation with yourself. A lot of big streamers have this skill because their chats are simply too fast for them to interact with every single chat message. And if you can learn to hold a conversation with yourself, then whether or not people are chatting stops being an obstacle for you. Now, this solution is really going to only help you when you're in stream. There's obviously nothing to stop you from going and looking at your stats after the stream. And this is where the next step is important, because what we're going to do here is celebrate the small stuff. You hit 50 followers. That's amazing. You're on fast track to affiliate. 1 person showed up to your stream today. That's awesome. You made a new friend who could become a regular in your streams. You learned how to make your mic sound better. That means you're developing new skills and becoming a better content creator. The benefit of focusing on the positives is that you become more grateful for the things that you do have and focus less on the things that you don't have. As well as celebrating the small stuff, it may also help you to set small, attainable goals. So not viewership viewership or followership or any of that kind of stuff that's largely out of your immediate control. But you could create goals like create a new graphic for your stream, learn how to edit a stream clip, or get to know one person in your chat really, really well. Succeeding at these small goals is going to make you feel like you are naturally progressing as a streamer, which you are doing. You're learning to become a better content creator. Competition. Twitch has, I think now 10 million streamers. And competition is a really big reason why I've seen people move to smaller platforms like Facebook or just quit streaming entirely. There are so many people that talk about finding your Twitch niche over on YouTube, aka a small area of Twitch that you can basically dominate. But if you're not careful with this, you can actually get pigeonholed into playing the same game over and over again. This one actually happened to me. I used to stream GTA exclusively over on Mixer. Then we moved to Twitch. I stopped streaming GTA and I lost 50% of my viewership. Now, if you're happy to niche into a small game and pretty much exclusively play that game on stream, then that can make Twitch growth a little bit easier. But it's really important not to pin all your hopes on a game, because there is a better way to grow on Twitch, which is to have a really clear brand message. Microphone is waffling. So this is something that you stand for that other people can get on board with. For me, I help small streamers level up their content, and I believe that every streamer has the potential to succeed on Twitch. Some people may disagree with that, but that's okay, as having a clear message will draw in the people who are on board with this. By the way, guys, don't worry too much about getting hate here. Something that I've learned throughout my content creation journey is that hate is just a part of the process. Some people are just not going to vibe with you, and the more people that your content reaches, the more you're going to find that this happens. It's absolutely no coincidence that my most popular YouTube videos are also my most disliked YouTube videos. The question that you need to ask yourself is, what do you stand for? What are your beliefs and opinions? This could be as simple, guys, as you are LGBTQIA and stand for equality for the LGBTQIA community. Shout out to the Victoria Way, by the way, for an awesome conversation the other night on marketing. Victoria actually has years of experience in marketing and is a mindset coach. She really helped me to understand the whole concept of marketing yourself a lot better. I'm going to leave a link to her Twitch down below, guys. Go follow, please. Thank you, guys. Whatever you decide that your core belief is what you're going to build your brand around. Of course, you're going to have loads of opinions and beliefs. Everybody does. But what we need to achieve when we're marketing ourselves is a really clear message. As well as a really clear message, you need to know who your audience are. This cannot be everyone. You guys may not know this because I don't really talk about it too much, but I actually went to stream school earlier this year, and that was via streamcoach.tv. I will leave a link down below to their website. And one of the most useful exercises to me was building my audience archetype. So this is where I wrote down exactly who my content was for, to the extent where I gave this person a name and a face even. I'm not going to be able to share this with you because it is part of a paid program. But the concept of defining your target audience is a fundamental strategy in business, and it's absolutely not unique to streaming. I'm going to link down below to a website called CoSchedule, which is a business blog. You can find a free worksheet that is really, really similar to the one that I use. In addition to having a clear message and a clear audience, you need to be incorporating that message into both your streams and your other content. If you are gaming, you can definitely still incorporate your message into your streams. You can do this via titles or conversational topics. Also, guys, consider starting and ending your streams in just chatting. Yes, this is going to be super intimidating at first, especially if you have no viewers when you start up a stream, but we need to challenge ourselves in order to grow. I'm not going to talk too much about social media, but I do also strongly recommend starting a YouTube channel. And the reason why I say this is because it works really well for small content creators. I have 800 subscribers and I still have people coming into my streams via YouTube and dropping into my Discord. It's not a case of YouTube equals success. There is a building period on YouTube. It is a slow growth process. Basically what happens, guys, is once you have a library of videos that have decent thumbnails, titles, and SEO, which is search engine optimization, YouTube is going to hand these videos out for you like business cards. And the really great thing about the YouTube algorithm is that absolutely anybody can get into it. You don't have to be a massive superstar YouTuber to make it into the algorithm. And this is a massive advantage over just making Twitch content, where if you are not the top of the top, you're buried at the bottom of the directory. Social media is also really important. I would recommend getting at least a Twitter. I did actually make a whole video on using Twitter to grow your stream, guys. You can actually find that video up here. Time drain. This is a big killer of streams, and I feel so much for you guys who work full-time as well as streaming. The first year that I streamed, I actually worked a 9-to-5 job, and I have never been so tired. Do I think it's doable? Yes, because I did it for a whole year, but it takes some sacrifice, and it also takes really excellent time management. The only solution to this problem is to find a schedule that you personally can consistently manage. And this is very likely to require some sacrifice somewhere, whether it's sacrifice of money because you're going to have to pay a designer to do your designs instead of working on them yourself. It could be a sacrifice of time spent on other hobbies, or it could even be a sacrifice of time spent with family and friends. Or the worst sacrifice of all, the sacrifice of sleep. Be real cautious with sacrificing your sleep, guys. For me, this was a really fast track to burnout, and it can definitely trigger anxiety and depression. Now, the way that I personally schedule myself is via Google Calendar. This is my current schedule on screen now. My key piece of advice here is to have one full day off where nothing is scheduled per week. I worked 7 days for a really long time, and it did end up leading me to creative burnout. I ended up taking more days off than if I just scheduled one day off a week. And the whole point of this schedule is that it's really manageable so that you can keep it consistent. General consensus of opinion around YouTubers who make videos on streaming is that you should stream 3 days a week and then also make one YouTube video a week. If it was me and I was working full time, personally, if I was brand new and I didn't have an audience yet, I would cut back the streaming time and focus a lot of time on the YouTube. I'm going to show you an example schedule on screen now, which includes time slots for work and travel for if you're working a regular 9-to-5 job. This includes 2 streams a week, and I would recommend that you stream between 2 and 3 hours. And this also includes an evening for planning and scripting your content. Obviously, it depends on what kind of content you want to make. Some people make really unscripted content. If you were doing, say, a cooking video or a vlog video, you could use that time for filming instead. But the key part of this schedule is that you dedicate one full day per week to YouTube. And you are going to get to the point, guys, where you can produce a video in a day. But being fully transparent, guys, for me, it took me, I think, 5 months of making consistent weekly videos before I actually got to the stage where I could produce a video in a day. My first video took me, I think it was either 4 or 5 days. I made a lot of mistakes. I recommend looking up some editing tutorials on YouTube rather than just diving in for your first video. An important thing to mention here is when you first start creating content, being in the algorithm for YouTube or streaming the amount of days that people tell you to shouldn't really be your main priority. Your priority should be finding your own rhythm that works for your lifestyle, that you're going to realistically be able to maintain long term. Because if you put too much pressure on yourself and you try and keep up with algorithms when you haven't even got editing skills yet, and you're trying to do 12, 13 hour days, then all that's going to happen is you're going to burn out and you're going to take time off. And that's going to be negative for your stream if that's repeatedly happening. One really important thing that I want to mention here, guys, as well, is that you should absolutely be setting limitations for your work. If you give yourself 8 weeks to do something, it's going to take you 8 weeks to do it. If you give yourself 1 week, then it will take you 1 week. And don't worry about everything being perfect, because every single time you make a piece of content, you learn, and then the next piece of content is better, and that is the process that we all have to go through. The tip I actually have for you guys, if you want to feel better about your content when you're first starting out, is go to your very favorite YouTuber's channel. I'm going to show you my channel now, and then order the videos by oldest. No one's first video is good, trust me. I sound like a robot in my first video. It's really bad. When it comes down to how many hours you should stream, guys, there is a lot of dodgy advice going around both Twitch and YouTube. You have to be live, otherwise people aren't going to find you. And that's only true if you don't have a presence anywhere else. So if you don't have a YouTube presence, you don't have a Twitter presence, or you haven't got other social medias that you prefer to use instead. But if you're a small streamer and you're streaming to say 0 to 5 viewers, your time is much better spent learning how to create content on platforms like YouTube that will actively promote your content than it is spent at the very bottom of whatever directory you're in on Twitch. One final point here, guys, is not to spread yourself too thin. There are too many streamers who think they need to be on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and Twitch and Facebook and every platform that exists. The formula that's always worked for me is Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. There really is no rush here, guys, and everyone thinks multitasking is the way to go, but people are actually less efficient when they multitask. So there is no harm whatsoever in just having Twitter, getting to know Twitter, and then moving on to YouTube. And if you would like to use other platforms, then moving on to them next. Inability to adapt. Streaming and content creation moves really fast. Like what I knew last year is irrelevant this year. And some people find it a lot harder to deal with change than others. I think some of this comes from anxiety in new situations, but there is also a discomfort in learning for everybody because you're not the expert yet. The hardest adaptation for me personally in my content creation journey has absolutely been the switch from Mixer to Twitch. It's been a really long time learning Twitch and it sucked, but being able to adapt is the reason why this channel is here today. Streamers have to be prepared to look at their own ideas, realize when they aren't working, throw that idea completely away, and then create and grow a new idea from scratch. What I recommend when looking into whether one of your ideas is working or not working is writing a list of pros and cons. There are lots of different indicators to let you know that an idea isn't working, such as viewership loss, saturation of category that you're in, lack of incoming, traffic, idea saturation, which means that there are a billion other people doing exactly the same thing that you're trying to do. The audience in your category may also be looking for a different kind of content than the content that you're producing. I used to stream GTA exclusively when I was over on Mixer, but I made the decision when I moved to Twitch to change my content over. And this is after weighing up the pros and cons. You can see that there are a lot more cons, which ultimately led to the decision for me to stop streaming GTA. My general rule of thumb is that I'll trial an idea for about a month. If I see growth or a lot of interest, because that is also something valuable, I will keep the idea going for another month and then we review it again at the end of that time. And this is the best way that I have found to keep my content fresh in an ever-changing environment. Self-sabotage. Now, the reason why this is number 5 on the list is because negative mindsets like self-entitlement can actually ultimately lead to self-sabotage. The word jaded is something that I hear a lot around stream educational videos on YouTube. What this actually means is bored or lacking enthusiasm, typically after having had too much of something. And this is something that happens a lot to small streamers. When you first start streaming, for many people, it can become a bit of an obsession. I know this was the case for me. I finally felt like I'd found a space that I fit into, and I really wanted to spend as much time as possible within the streaming bubble. So you put your heart and soul into streaming and making content, and for most people, this doesn't just equate to success. And at that point, you hit a wall, possibly because of self-entitlement, because you feel like all this hard work should equate to something. And when you see other people overtaking your progress, at this point, you're already jaded, so that sparks jealousy. And it's at this point where you're actually sabotaging your own success subconsciously. Now, the problem with being jaded is it leads to people missing opportunities they would have otherwise been able to take advantage of. Shout out to Ashley Christ for explaining what jaded even means on one of her YouTube videos. I can't actually remember which video it was, so I'll just have to leave a link to her YouTube page down below, guys, if you have not already seen her videos. My personal experience of being jaded, and this has happened to me a few times throughout the 2 years that I have been streaming, is that I tend to withdraw pretty much completely from the streaming community. And I also tend to withdraw from any friends that are doing better than me at streaming. And the problem with this is that you just stop networking and you just alienated your friends. So it's a self-defeating cycle, because this is going to just lead to even less people being in your streams, and then you're going to get more jaded, and then you're going to get more jealous, and then you're going to self-sabotage again. The problem with this mindset is it's basically going to last until you either flukishly start doing well on Twitch, which is pretty unlikely if you're in this mindset, or you recognize the mindset and work to break it. Ashley Christ actually suggested in her video a technique where you write down all the things that you love about streaming. And this is really similar to what we talked about earlier with celebrating small achievements. This isn't something that I've tried personally. If you guys want to try this out, definitely give that a go. Let me know in the comments if it worked for you. For me personally, realizing that I am self-sabotaging can be enough in itself to break that behavior. So here are some signs that you might be self-sabotaging. You dread starting your stream. You're skipping your streams. You don't really enjoy watching other people's streams anymore. If you do join a stream, you feel pretty uncomfortable if that streamer is doing better than you. You lack motivation for social media or for making videos if you've had that motivation before. You start to dislike friends who are achieving their goals or doing better than you. You feel lost as to what content to make. Every time someone overtakes you, it feels like a personal attack. So after realizing that I'm in a self-sabotaging mindset, the next step that I personally take is to ask myself, will this help me and help me reach my goals, or will this harm me? And the answer is, of course, that it will absolutely harm me. Of course it will. And for me, at this stage, what I usually start doing is the exact opposite of what my self-sabotaging brain is telling me to do. So if I feel intimidated by going to large streams, I go to large streams anyway. Or if I feel anxious that people won't like a piece of content that I'm planning, I'm gonna do it anyway, and I'm gonna promote the hell out of it. And this is actually a concept, guys, that I've been using my whole life to defeat my bipolar disorder, which is one of them things that likes to try and pull me under. In psychology, this is actually called flooding, and it's where you flood someone with their fears so that they learn to overcome them and get used to them. And it's used to treat phobias. Now, this is going to take a lot of self-awareness. It may provoke anxiety, but the more you challenge these negative mindsets, the easier it becomes to recognize and overcome them. It's also really important, guys, not to attack yourself if you feel that you aren't reaching the viewership or the goals that you have set for yourself. Not achieving a high viewer count or your other personal goals does not mean that you suck as a person. Letting yourself fall into this way of thinking is gonna only be harmful to your mental health and also to your growth as a streamer. If you do find yourself in a situation where you aren't growing, or maybe your viewership dropped, which, trust me, it happens to everybody, then you need to look at this with a really analytical mind and perhaps adapt your content as we talked about earlier. But if you feel at any point that analyzing the content is becoming emotional for you, which it absolutely can do, my advice would be to take a few days break. Give yourself some time to process the emotions you're feeling. Maybe talk to a friend about it. I find it really useful to speak to my friends who are other streamers about these things, and then come back fierce and ready to plan a new strategy. Now, a lot of people think taking time off as a streamer is a bad thing. I totally disagree with that. Your audience will not disappear if you take 1 or 2 weeks off. And I would rather that anybody did that than continue to produce content when they're clearly not in the right mindset for it. Just make sure, guys, that you do keep your audience up to date via social media, just so that people are aware of the situation. I hope that you guys found this video useful. If you did, don't forget to leave me a like and subscribe. Also, guys, drop me a comment. Have you ever personally experienced any of the things that we've talked about today? If you'd like to come chat live with me about streaming, I do stream over on Twitch every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Link in the description box below. Also, guys, really exciting, I have finally set up a shots call page for Solsey Reviews your streams. And what that actually means is that you can sign up for a stream review on any one of the next 5 weeks instantly. If you would like to be part of the show and get some fresh eyes on your content, we'll leave links to the available dates in the description box down below. If you want to see more from me, you can click on this mystery video up here. I'll see you over there. Bye, guys.